Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmere Counseling, a podcast exploring therapeutic lessons we can glean from the work of our favorite author, Brandon Sanderson. I'm Joseph, a licensed marriage and family therapist.
I'm Danielle, a board-certified behavior analyst.
And I'm Garrett, also a board-certified behavior analyst.
Okay, and so today we are going to look at some relationships in the Stormlight Archive. More specifically, what we can learn from these couples on being a united power couple.
Whew.
And so we're going to talk about Dalinar and Evi. We're going to talk about Adolin Shallan and a surprise couple that we're going to reveal when we get to them.
It's going to be a good surprise couple. You guys can even put it in the comments.
Yeah, everybody make your guesses.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to recognize these are married couples, but the principles will apply in a lot of relationships.
And as intent is crucial for the world building and the magic system in the Cosmere, intention is really key to what we will be talking about today. No matter what therapeutic principles or skills you use, if our intention is to manipulate, control, or feed our own purposes, these principles will not benefit us. But if our intention is to love, to support, and to uplift another, then we'll find success in using the things that we'll be talking about today.
What are our topics for Dalinar and Evi?
Okay, so Dalinar and Evi, we're going to look at marital adjustments and what healthy marital adjustments look like. Because every couple, when they get married, there's always that honeymoon phase where people are in love, emotions are high but sweet, and then when we get back down to the everyday nitty-gritty, a lot of the times there is a significant amount of adjustment that every couple needs to go through. And we're going to look at mostly what Evi is doing right in this case, in regards to marital adjustments.
Yeah, sorry, Dalinar. You don't really show the gold standard on this one.
No, he did not do good in that relationship.
Right.
I guess we should give a little summary. It was an arranged marriage.
Yes.
Dalinar he was the Blackthorn.
Very much into his war.
Yeah, he was conquering Alethkar and drinking.
Right, like being the general is his main identity.
Right, but then he was set up in this marriage, but I guess we'll talk more about how well he does.
Yeah, well, how well they did as a couple. And when we're talking about a relationship, it is easy to pass blame on one person or the other. But for the most part, when we're adjusting to a marital relationship, there isn't usually a really clear who's right and who's wrong, because they're becoming a duo. And so one person's action will always influence and impact the other, and also in turn the relationship. And so please do not, as we're talking about these things, don't think about, my spouse need to do this, they need to do this, they need to do this, because that is not how marital therapy works. Okay, we can only work on ourselves. And so as we talk about these things, let's see what we can learn from them rather than let's judge these characters. All right. So
I'm judging. Yeah, Dalinar's flashbacks.
Yes, they are, and
they're rough.
And I can totally understand why, and we'll also talk about that. But let's first talk about blending cultures. Right. This is a big task because Evi came from a completely different culture from the Alethi.
Yeah. But I think that they're from completely different countries. In any relationship, you're bringing two cultures together.
Yes.
You have your personal beliefs and habits. You have your family culture, your friend culture, the way you do things. And this new person you're having a relationship with has all of theirs.
Right.
So, I mean, they've got the two different countries, which is a whole other layer. But in any relationship, blending culture is something you're going to need to be doing.
Right. Every couple is going to have a greater or smaller degree of this. And so when we go into this, Evie was, as an outsider, she had a different perspective on the Alethi Vorinism and the way that the Alethi culture does things, and that caused some discussions and friction between him and Dalinar.
Evi and Dalinar.
Evi and Dalinar, and that's always going to happen when you blend cultures. There's always going to be some friction. People are going to get frustrated, but there needs to be an open mindedness to hear criticism from the other side rather than just defending our own culture. Because when we get into the mindset of I need to defend my culture from my spouse, that often leads to more unproductive conflict than actually resolution. Right? When we become defensive, it really doesn't get anywhere.
I'm thinking about our mystery couple. They don't do that.
Yes, absolutely. Something that stuck out to me, Joseph, while you were talking about that is like when you're saying, I need to defend my culture, you made a point about how it's a you're a duo once you get into being a couple. And so just changing that mindset almost at the beginning of how can I contribute to our culture, which, as we've said, Evie does a really good job of, and Dalinar's kind of thinking more in the mine and yours kind of situations. Throughout Oathbringer, maybe you guys can correct me, I feel like we never actually got a good picture of what Evie believes. It was just through Dalinar's pretty judgmental lens of her culture.
But you still see that she's nailing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't happy about it, but you could see that she's doing all the right things.
Right. She is learning. Multiple times she said she's trying to be a good Alethi wife. I think she cover up her safe hands, even though that isn't part of her belief. If I remember correctly. And she is in Oathbringer, in the flashbacks, you can see her effort in trying to compromise in the cultural things to be a good wife and a good mother to their two sons.
When she's trying to be the duo, right? That partner with him, that she's trying to work towards a new culture together. Rather than a my versus yours, she's taking what's important to her and seeing what's important to Dalinar and trying to work towards what's our culture going to be together. Will it help if I come to war and scribe for you? How can we work together to both parent these kids instead of me doing it by myself?
Right. And even when she had to do it by herself, she tried to use that framework of our culture. I think the one that breaks my heart the most is when she's reaching out to name Renarin. And so Dalinar's off at war when Renarin is born. And so he doesn't even know his name, and he didn't even contribute to naming him because he didn't answer her letters. And so she named him Renarin, and I cannot remember what it stands for, but in Alethi, I think it stands for nothing. It's like son of, or something like that.
But she was trying.
Yeah, she was trying so hard. She was trying to keep that culture even when he wasn't responding. And she totally could have given him any Iriali name that she wanted to. But she chose to stick with that our culture.
Right. Evie really does a great job at being sensitive to what is important to Dalinar and to his beliefs, and doing what she can to adjust and to incorporate as much as she can. Although the constant at war thing really, really bugged her.
Yeah, she was frustrated about it, and I think she brings it up with Dalinar, but she doesn't bring it up with the kids. Like she only talks positively about Dalinar and what he's doing to his kids.
Right. He always tried to help the kids build a positive image of their father, which is another thing that she does really well of, is complimenting and assuming good intention and help your kids come to know their parents good. Too often times we see parents that will complain about their spouses in front of their kids, and that is a big no-no. If we want to talk about good family relationship, is you never criticize your partner in front of your kids.
Gotta be a team.
Right. Yeah. You have to be a team. And first and foremost, you're a team as spouses. And you have to have that united front. Unfortunately, in this case, Dalinar isn't really invested in the same process that Evi is. He has other priorities that's taking up his attention and his energy. And then the next thing from Dalinar and Evi is building love maps and commitment. And this is from the Gottman couples therapy lenses. The Gottmans, for some of the viewers that don't know, they are marriage researcher for decades. They are one of the what we'll call authorities on family research. And one of the things that they talk about how to build a good relationship is knowing your partner, building the love maps, knowing what they love and what's important to them.
Is that what a love map is?
Yes. So a love map essentially is an activity that they will do where they'll ask one spouse to answer questions about the other spouse. Like, what is your spouse's favorite ice cream flavor? What is an event or memory that is important to your spouse as a child, right? And so through these kind of get to know you questions, we can help couples build their love maps and come into understand and appreciate each other on a deeper level.
Wow, that's really cool. I didn't know what a love map was before right then, and that is an awesome activity.
Yeah, and it's actually really fun. I've done this in some of my sessions before, and oftentimes there are things that the people that come in, they don't know about each other until we started to talk about and started to explore. And oftentimes it helps explain a lot of the struggles that they have.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing more about what this person loves.
Yeah, and this person's background and things like that.
Is that app that you make me do?
Yes, that is the app that I make you do. So, shameless plug-in for a free app from the Gottmans. It's called the Gottman Card Deck on Google Play Store and Apple App Store.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. It is free. It is a free app that anyone can use, and there's a lot of discussion topics and things that you can do with your spouse to engage in meaningful conversation and coming to understand each other more.
Man, I feel like I need to go get that because I'm not sure I could tell you my wife's favorite ice cream flavor. So
gotta build that love map, Garrett.
I know.
And so Evi, when we look at Evi and Dalinar's relationship, she really tries to understand what's important to Dalinar.
Well, she shows up and she's like, okay, war and drinking, I don't like this, but why is it so important to you? Like, tell me about the thrill. Like, she really tries.
Mm-hmm. Right. And she knows that there is little she can do in the war front, and so she tries to find ways to support him. And you can just tell from the very get-go that Evi is committed. And that is another thing that we can really, really learn from Evi's example here, is that she, even though it's an arranged marriage, she's committed in learning to love this man that she's married to. Eventually, she is frustrated whenever there is a relationship that's one-sided like this one, where one side is continually giving and the other one is continually taking. There comes to a breaking point, and with Evi, she's sincerely asking to know that Dalinar also loves her.
Remind me what's going on at this point.
When she finally is asking for something, one of the breaking points for her is when Dalinar hadn't even met Renarin. I remember that was a big breaking point for her. And then the next one was when they were discussing Rathalas, or the Rift. For those of you who haven't read for a while, the Rift was a town in rebellion against King Gavilar, and Dalinar was being sent to go and conquer it. Or maybe it might have even been before that, when they were talking about patrolling on the borders of Vadinar. And he says, we'll probably be at war for a long time. Who knows when we'll make it back home? And he says it as like an offhanded comment and just thinks nothing of it because he's so focused in doing what's next for the Blackthorn, doing what's next for Dalinar. But when he turns around, as a reader, you don't even expect it. But Evi is just crying her eyes out because he's showed where he thinks the relationship is going to be, and it's always going to be at war. And so even that little bit that she asked for wasn't being given, and she asked for a little bit more at that point. And I think he had some sort of plan, or he consoled her in some way that they were going to find a way to make it work. But I don't think they ever really do. because, the book takes a hard turn for Evi a couple of flashbacks later.
Right. Yeah. And it is very evident that she is moving towards him all this time. Like, she is giving all this time, but he isn't turning towards her. And that is another thing in the Gottman therapy is we often need to look at, okay, can both spouses turn toward each other to really come together and work together? Right? When one spouse initiates, will the other turn away or will they turn towards? Right? And oftentimes we have to help couples learn how to turn toward each other rather than turning away from each other.
Does the Gottman's therapy talk a lot about like shared values in that area of like
Yes,
building together?
they also do. And
mystery couple.
yes.
It's true.
Right. Value is another really important thing because that in the Gottman's research, having shared value is one of the things that unites the couple. And Evi here, in their relationship, Evi's committed because she finds that value in creating a family, being a good wife, and being a good mother.
She at least wants the shared value of raising these sons.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
He won't even give that.
Right.
I get it as an adult. Like, a year goes by, you don't even notice, you know? He's like,
Right.
oh, I just need to get this next thing. He's classic workaholic.
He's always at work. He's never home.
I don't think I've ever thought of Dalinar as a workaholic, but you were absolutely right.
Well, he's also an alcoholic.
Right.
But, like, I think he mentions at one point, he's like, oh, Adolin is already 3? Wow. I haven't seen him since he was a baby or something. But you get going in work and things, there's always the next thing. It takes constant effort to turn towards the love maps and the family.
Right. And to Dalinar's credit, he does feel guilty about that sometimes. There were moments that happened during their relationship that made him reflect that he needs to change. There's always other things that's distracting him or something that's going on that made it so he never took the time or spent the effort to work on those things.
Or he'd give a little effort. Like, when she asked to go to war with him, he had a moment of, oh, like, you're not really an Alethi scribe. You don't really know. It's better you stay behind. But she really wanted to. And he's like, okay, if you really want to,
come along.
He did try to give a little bit.
Right. He defines himself too much by his work. And so he's not spending the time and the energy like Evi is toward building their family. He's very much, I go out, I work, I bring home the bacon, and that's the end of my duties. We actually see this dynamic quite often in a lot of couples, surprisingly. Dalinar and Evi is, besides the tragic thing that happened at the Rift, their marital dynamic is actually really, really common. There's this unequal amount of dedication toward building their relationship. And that often comes from one spouse not knowing how to build a good relationship or doesn't know how to interact with their kids or how to deal with their marital issues. And so they become avoidant, and finding more success at work often lead them to spend more time at work.
And he talks about that. He's like, I don't know how to interact with this little boy who can't even swing a sword yet. And,
right.
And he didn't even, I think he was kind of bullied into the marriage in the first place. Like, Navani and Gavilar and Sadius and everybody were like, you should do this.
Right. And so the challenge that Dalinar faces is a common one that a lot of people faces. And there's a solution to that is, let's spend some time, get some help. Let's go to some parenting classes. Let's try out a few different things.
Use the Love Map app.
Yes, we can use the Love Map app. The most important thing is that we need to take the time to turn towards our family and take some time out of our day to learn positive skills to help us interact with them in a positive way. And that can be really, really fulfilling. A lot of times this one-sided dynamic happens simply because one of the spouse doesn't know how to deal with this.
Yeah.
So a really simple solution is to find some resources to help us know how to deal with these things.
I really like that. I've heard a quote somewhere that it says, you spell love by saying time, and it really is like the time that you spend with them. That's what it boils down to for me in this section. Is it all comes down to wanting to put in that time and effort, and I think that shows the biggest contrast between Dalinar and Evi is she puts in the time and he does not.
For whomever is listening to this that resonated with Evi, when your spouse does do something positive that contributes to the relationship, focus on that. Really compliment them on what they do, because the more they realize, hey, they can do this, the more they will be able to initiate more change. Because a lot of times people that distance themselves, number one, don't know what to do, and number two, they're afraid that they're going to do it wrong. And so when we can focus on praising each other's positive attempts, that can greatly contribute to a healthy relationship dynamic as well.
So your next couple is Adolin and Shallan, right?
Yes.
What's your first topic for them?
Building trust and also developing positive perspective about each other. Yes.
That's a Gottman terminology too?
Yes. So every relationship, to have a good relationship, you have to have trust. You have to learn to trust each other. And trust takes time and takes a lot of experience over time, experiencing a similar situation over and over again. Then you can trust that your spouse will do things a certain way that is positive. Right? In Gottman's couple therapy, we also talk about this concept of positive perspective, assuming positive intent. Right? No matter what your spouse does, you assume first that they have a positive intent instead of assuming that, oh, you're doing this just because you want to get a rise out of me. That's assuming negative intent. And so we're going to look at that.
Evi assumed positive intent at first.
Yes, she does. She does. In Rhythm of War, Chapter 9, this is like after Adolin Shallan's honeymoon phase kind of...
they've been married for a year.
Yes, they've been married for a year, and Adolin at this point is worried about Shallan because he knows that she's keeping secrets, and she is worried that he is going to find out what she did and will reject her. So Shallan's afraid of rejection, so she's keeping secrets, and Adolin is worried about her not knowing exactly how to support her. Right?
They're married, but they don't have that trust.
Right. As a marriage therapist, the conversation that Adolin Shallan had in this chapter is not one that you will want to have after you are already married. This is something you want to talk about before you're married. And because when one of the spouses is avoiding their problems, it is going to negatively impact your relationship. Number one, keeping secrets can make your spouse feel like they're not enough for you. That no matter what they do, you're not willing to open up to them. And that is going to put a big blow to your relationship.
This is like, I think it's right before they go to catch the Sons of Honor.
Yes.
And he confides in her about having killed Toril Sadius.
Right.
And some of his guilt there. And then she makes some sort of indication that she feels bad about some things too, but doesn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, this has been going on for a year.
Right. And to Adolin's credit, he respects her, and he's like, okay, when you're ready, let's talk about it. When you're ready, I'm here. Right. But he does deserve to know the truth. And in the best case scenario, before he commit to this marriage. Right? But in this case, Adolin is a stud, and it's just like, we're committed to each other, and I'm gonna be here, and when you're ready, I'm here for you. Um, and that is one of the best thing that you can do to help your spouse to feel that they can confide in you.
I think it goes back to that assigning positive intent that you were just talking about a couple minutes ago, that even when she's keeping those secrets, Adolin assumes the best, and that it's not that she has a secret boyfriend living in the next kingdom over. It's that she has something that she's still working through, and he has that positive intent that one day she will confide in him. And I think that's a great thing to have.
Right. Adolin never doubted her loyalty.
And they have the love, he loves her for who she is now and for all of her best traits. He trusts and knows that this relationship is good, but I want to support you more. It makes me think of when she finally gets to a point in Rhythm of War where she tells him about how she met his cousin, Yasna. It explains that I went to become her ward to steal from her. The reason I went to become Yasna's ward was to steal the Soulcaster, send it back to my family. And she is so terrified to tell him. She's like, I'm going to tell him I was going to steal from his cousin. Like, this is over. I've moved on from that. I'm now friends with Yasna. I'm truly in love with him. But I'm so afraid that he's going to reject me from what I was, what I had planned to do. And then she tells him, and he laughs, not at her, but with her. He's like, oh my goodness, stealing from Yasna. You didn't know what you were talking about. And she's like, yeah, I did it. But it just shows how he doesn't get caught up in, wow, that would have been really bad. That wasn't a good choice of yours. He's secure and trusting in who she is now and is able to forgive that she had some malintents in the past. And she's able to see, that's huge for her to recognize, wow, he's not going to judge me for what's happened in my past.
Mm-hmm.
Our relationship and his love for me now is secure.
Mm-hmm.
We can just laugh that
I was foolhardy
mistakes were made.
Right. And that also goes to show their genuine relationship throughout when they started courting and with everything that happened until their marriage, is that they have really come to know and trust each other as who they are. And there is a solid friendship underneath this marital relationship.
Yeah. I think something else that they do really well is they assign that positive intent, but they're also not expecting the other to be perfect. Like, Adolin doesn't all of a sudden have this life-shattering moment that Shallan isn't perfect when he learns that she tried to steal from Yasna. He's just like, yeah, makes sense. We've all had dumb moments in our lives, so and he just rolls with it. He accepts that there are those mistakes that the other person makes, and I think that's something important to remember in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, not everyone is able to deal with the fact that you've killed someone in the past, right? This is, again,
at the end of Rhythm of War, he hears all of her secrets.
Right. And every couple, every person is gonna have something that they are willing to put up with and things that they're not willing to put up with. And that is something, this is why communication before marriage, understanding, really come to confide in each other, is really important to work through these things that could damage their trust. Mm-hmm. Right? It is important that we talk about these things before we commit.
Yeah, I think Shallan's fears, like, it's not a black and white thing. She was too scared,
right,
to share. Mm-hmm. But there's an element of validity that, some people won't accept you for things you've done in the past. Like, right. That's valid. That is scary.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think a lot of people can relate to Shallan's fears. Would someone accept me for who I am with all my flaws? And there are going to be people that won't. But there are also going to be people that will. And how can you sift through and know who are the ones that will is by spending time with them.
And taking these risks
and
to
taking
be vulnerable.
These risks. Yes. And Adolin and Shallan have proved to each other that they are trustworthy. That they will accept each other. Right? And so there are a lot of different moments that this trust is built upon. And definitely we're not saying to just be vulnerable with whomever you first get to know someone, right? That is not a smart idea. You want to make sure after spending time with them that they're trustworthy and that you want to commit to this person. Then you talk about these things.
Yeah, trust is built over time, right? You build it up naturally, and hopefully by the time you're at a point you want to marry somebody, you're not keeping as many secrets as Shallan did.
Right. And another thing I really like that Adolin did is he didn't criticize her by saying something like, well, why can't you just be honest with me? Don't you trust me?
He didn't take it personally.
He didn't take it personally. A lot of people take this very personally. And with understandable reason.
He took that positive intent. And for the most part, I think he should have been more proactive. For the most part, he let her just keep her secrets for a while. But once he finally does get to the point where he's like, hey, it's been a while, I've given you space, I really want to know so I can support you.
Right.
He approaches it with a gentle kind of, what can I do to help you feel safe enough to share with me?
Right. Because a typical emotional knee-jerk response is, why can't you be honest with me? Don't you trust me?
Yeah.
And that makes people retreat more.
Right.
That type of approach is very confrontational and very aggressive, and
makes it about you, not about them.
Right. And so those type of response is not helpful. And what we can really learn from Adolin here is this gentle way of, I love you, I want to support you, help me know what I can do to help you.
Yeah, I really love that.
Another thing that I think we kind of talked about it with a positive intent, but I really love how Adolin and Shallan always focus on the best in each other. Is that relates to a Gottman thing, right?
Yeah, sharing fondness and admiration. They're always complimenting each other. Or they're teasing each other in a way that compliments them or like shows them that they love who they are.
And you've told me about the 5-to-1.
Yes.
You're supposed to have like 5 positive interactions to 1 negative. And the couples who did that in the Gottman research, if they had 5 positive interactions to 1 negative interaction, those were the couples that were less likely to get divorced.
Yes, right? Correct. Yeah. So in the research, they had these couples that will come and they'll spend a whole day observing them. And they start counting how many times the couple interacted in a positive way and how many times they interacted in a negative way.
Positive meaning like sharing this fondness, sharing admiration.
Right. Talking with each other, engaging in conversation, doing activities with each other, hugging, kissing, all the things that shows love and that shows that you appreciate the other person. Like all these positive interactions. Now, negative interactions can be you engage them in a conversation, but they didn't respond. Right? That is a negative interaction. Or you criticize the other person, or you pick a fight. But those are all negative interactions. And so couples that have the highest marital satisfactions, their positive to negative interaction ratio is 5-to-1.
At least.
At least. Yep.
And 5-to-1. You definitely see that in Adolin and Shallan. Like, if I was Adolin, I'd be doing a lot more complaining. But he's always like, I love this about you. Thank you. He's always picking out the things that that he's grateful for. And this relates also to positive psychology research, the research on happiness. That research shows that taking time to purposefully be present in something that you love, or really relishing, experiencing the wonder at things, thinking about things we're grateful for, talking about those things. Doing these things gives people more positive emotions, obviously, but it also results in more energy and even increases your physical health. Adolin and Shallan do a good job of actively cultivating their positive thinking in their relationship. Mm-hmm. And it helps kind of draw out those threads from the honeymoon phase and keep
it alive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Sharing your fondness and admiration about your spouse is one of the most effective things to keep that love and that flame alive, keep that passion alive.
I love how many active words there were in that. Very basic psychology thing that lots of people probably have heard just in mainstream pop culture is like the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. When you're in a growth mindset, you're always looking for what more you can do. And when you're in a fixed mindset, you think this is all I've got. This is all I can do. And so I think all that ties into looking for that ways to keep going, to stay in love with your partner. Something else that I think Adolin and Shallan do a really good job of is they find time together. In Rhythm of War, they're on this very high stress mission of we're going to go and convince the Honor Spren to join our cause because we're kind of losing this war. And throughout all of that, it's stressful things going on. And Adolin takes Shallan off onto this random little hike, and they go and they find a star Spren so that way she can draw it. And it's literally the best thing that could have happened for Shallan and probably Adolin and their whole couple, their relationship.
He's using a love map.
Yeah, exactly. The love map. It's a very important part of their love map. And it just shows the importance of making that time to strengthen that relationship. Even when you're going through stressful times, like my wife and I having our third kid, but we're still looking for times to schedule out our date night. We were talking about it right before recording this, actually, of trying to plan out when we're going to do our date night this week. So that way we can take that time, take a moment out of our high stress situation, getting used to a third child, and just having time to be together, focus on that 5-to-1 ratio that we discussed earlier.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's for Adolin and Shallan, like they just leave in the middle of they're just like, you know what, we're gonna go up here. And they do it something similar, like right before the night before his big trial, where the Honor Spren are gonna condemn him and imprison him for life. They spend some time just cuddling and just, I think it's in Shallan's perspective, and she's like, I love this. Could this last forever? She relishes that moment, even though I would be stressing out.
Oh, yeah. Husband's going to jail.
Right. And they do later. They stress out together and talk about how they're going to handle it together. But they take time to just be like, journey before destination. This moment matters. Mm-hmm. We have those 3 kids at home to deal with, but this moment still matters.
Right.
Yeah. I love it. They keep choosing each other. Shallan could have been chasing Kaladin. There's a moment at the end of Words of Radiance where she kind of has this pivotal moment of who she wants, and she chooses Adolin. And I think there's a lot of power in realizing that you chose your relationship. You didn't just stumble into it. So knowing that your choices do matter, like you chose this relationship and you can keep choosing it every single day. And I think Adolin and Shallan show that in their everyday interactions with each other, that they keep saying, I choose you. No matter what else happens, I'm going to keep choosing you first.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really, really wonderful.
I think our mystery couple does that too.
Yes.
Who are they?
Okay. All right.
Danielle, I've been very impressed on how often you've been able to throw them in throughout this. It's been
I am so excited about them.
Very exciting.
Okay. So drum roll please. Let's take out your let's see if our mystery couple is the one that you are all thinking about. It is Tauros Sadeas and ELA Sadeas.
Ta-da!
They are a power couple.
Yes, they are the ultimate power couple in the Stormlight Archive, I will say. And the reason why we picked them as the surprise couple and example of a united powerhouse couple is because it took forever to take them down, 2 assassinations to finally defeat Sadeas and ELA. And that is like the example of a power couple they are that makes it so difficult for our protagonists to deal with them. Right? They are united in their vision. They have shared values. They complement each other with their strengths and weaknesses. They communicate well, and they're consistent in what they do, both in front of others and in private.
For people who haven't read in a while, Toril and Ela were friends with Navani and Gavilar and Dalinar as they were conquering Alethkar. Right. They worked together. And then when everyone's at the war camp doing the vengeance thing, the Sadiuses decide that Dalinar is not worth their time anymore.
Right.
And they betray him to die. They're trying to undermine him. They're definitely a antagonist by the present story. Mm-hmm. They assassinated each of them, and they were both causing problems for our protagonists until their assassination.
Right.
But they do it together. They cause problems together, which is so amazing.
Yes, and that's the reason why they are such a formidable foe to our protagonists, is because with both Toril and Ela, it is so hard to find an advantage over them because they are so united. And one of the things that I want to talk about here from the Gottman therapy is making each other's life dreams come true, and that having that shared value, that shared goal that they're working towards together.
Yeah, the two of them, they have the exact same values. They have the same life goals. It's power, right?
Right.
They both are united in that they want more power. And at first, that means working with Dalinar, and later that means not working with Dalinar. But they're united on whichever side they're on. And the same level of morality.
That they're comfortable with.
Right. They have the same comfort morality level. They're both willing to do some shady stuff. And they do all their scheming together. They have some different interests, some different social circles. But everything they do on their own is in support of their joint goals. She's got her, underground spy network. And then he's got his more forefront things he's doing.
Right. As the High Prince.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so he handles things up to, he handles things in the public. She handles things behind the curtains.
But he's always like, oh, I need to go tell Ela this. Oh, I need to go ask Ela this. Or, oh, Ela will find somebody to do this.
Right. He completely trusts her in her abilities to do what she's good at. Mm-hmm. Right. And you can tell from the way they interact that Toril and Ela treat each other as different individuals, but equal in their stations. A lot of times we see other Alethi high princes, they often see their spouse or woman as a different station. But between Toril and Ela, that is not apparent, at least with the information we have. They counsel together all the time and listens to each other's advices.
They're both prideful, power-hungry people, but you never see them feel threatened by each other.
Right.
They win or lose as a team. Mm-hmm. If one of them has a better idea, they'll take it. They don't get caught up in whose idea it was. They're just working as a team.
I don't remember seeing them argue, at least with the information we had on them.
Right, and they're not a prospective couple. Mm-hmm. You don't see too much of them, but from what you see, it looks like they're nailing it.
Right.
Yeah, I was going through the books in my mind, and I don't think there's any time that they disagree, even when they choose different, when Ela counsels him to do something. I don't remember where it is in the books, but she counsels him to take a certain action, and he says, actually, we're going to do this. And he takes this different action. She accepts it. She accepts his logic, and they go for it. Mm-hmm. I think it's a really good contrast from, Dalinar and Evi, where Dalinar and Evi weren't in sync. They couldn't do that perfect dance where they just accepted each other's opinions because one of them wasn't committing fully to the relationship.
Right. Here, you can tell these two people, they're committed to the team.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Joseph. They were committed to each other and they stuck it out with each other, but they backstabbed Dalinar. And I was just wondering about, is there evidence that if, my partner is willing to backstab his friends, that he's more likely to backstab me?
Oh, yes. If your spouse is willing to throw their best friend under the bus for whatever reason, there is a pretty high chance they will be willing to throw you under the bus for their own skin as well. So, but I don't know.
So there's the possible drawback for this power couple.
Right.
But they didn't do it. She was praising his name after his death until her death.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if that's something we lose with not seeing them as perspective characters very much. Like their pillow talk of, Dalinar's been on the decline for a while. I think it's time to do a mercy kill on him, because that's how Toril viewed it, is that he was trying to help his friend while he still had some glory, but then he just kind of got consumed by the power and the greed as well. That his justification was this is a mercy, and maybe that's how Iole was able to justify it as well and still feel like she was solid in her relationship.
Yeah, and you're right. They would have come to that decision together.
Mm-hmm. So Toril and Iole, they understand what they're working towards as a couple. They have a shared goal, and they're united in getting that goal. And oftentimes, what we see in therapy is couples they wanted to build a life together, but later on, because of work, financial stress, and all the other things that life throws at them, having a kid, having 2 kids, having 3 kids, all these things can sidetrack the couple, and they end up taking care of all the peripheral things that are still important, but they forget to remind themselves that we have this shared goal and vision that we're working towards. Toril and Iole, they are hyper focused on making their lives' dreams come true. Together. And then the next thing is them managing conflict, which includes aspects of accepting your partner's influence, creating a dialogue about the problem, and practice self-soothing from the terms of Gottman therapy. And I think based on what we know, they understand each other's faults and imperfection. We see Sadeas thinking to himself about how Iole isn't the most beautiful, but that doesn't bother him because of how capable she is. And we also hear from Iole about her complaints about Sadeas, but he sees something in her that he values.
Mm-hmm.
And he never let the other quote-unquote undesirable traits get in the way of him committing to this relationship. Because we're all going to have faults. We're all going to have imperfections. And so if we can focus on what we love about that other person, like they do here, you're going to be able to build a deeper commitment toward each other and have higher marital satisfaction. Accepting each other's strengths and also weaknesses and finding ways to complement each other. And I think that's another thing that they do really well is whatever Sadeas is good at and whatever Sadeas is not good at, Iole comes in and fills up the gap for that. And vice versa. They trust each other with their secrets. And all those things are such important skills to become a united couple. And they're also very level-headed. They don't let their emotions rule their relationship. And sometimes that comes with the personality, but it is a skill that can be developed. And when things don't go their way, they turn towards each other and calmly engage in problem solving together. Because, our protagonist is always trying to thwart their machinations. And when things like that happens, they always come together and talk and figure out the next step.
And we don't see any evidence of, that was Iole's fault or
right.
Blame shifting or anything.
Right.
It's like, this went wrong. I need to go talk to my wife.
Right. Again, another example of why they're such a power couple. They don't blame shift. They simply look at, okay, what is the problem? Let's deal with it together. Let's figure it out together. Garrett, do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I think you covered it all really nicely. I just wish we had more perspective on them.
Yeah. Okay, so from these 3 couples, there are several things we can learn from them in building a united relationship. blending culture takes work. And if we can turn towards each other, build that love map, come to understand our partner's world, and really identify what it is about this relationship that I'm committed to, that will really, really greatly help with that transition. And, building trust takes time, but with positive experiences, that 5-to-1, sharing fondness and admiration about each other, and assume good intention, all those things, and spending time together, all those things will also enhance your marital relationship. And then what we learned from Toro and ELA Sadius is having that shared goal, that live stream that you're working together to accomplish, and also learn those conflict management skill by accepting your partner's influence and creating a dialogue rather than a argument about the problem. Those will also help you becoming a united couple.
So closing out then, we did want to invite you all, we mentioned it before, looking up that Gottman card deck. It is a free app. Joseph, you said it's on Google Play and on the App Store, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Not sponsored. We just, free app. I need to start using it as well. So I'll take up this invitation as well, looking up that Gottman card deck. And then also picking a principle that we discussed today that you want to make better in your relationship. This doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic one. Remember that we can learn from these principles in any sort of relationship that we may have. So take the time to research and study on the topic to see how you can better apply it to different situations.
Right. And because a lot of the things that we talk about today, there's a lot more to them. So if anything catches your attention and you want to learn more about it, go online, find a reputable source, and learn more about them.
Or send us an email. We'll bring it up again.
Of course.
Well, thank you for joining us. We hope you have felt inspired to take the next step on your journey. Please share your thoughts and experience and ask your questions using the comment function or by emailing us at fantasyframeworkstherapy@gmail.com. We'll love to hear from you, and you can also follow us on Facebook for in-between episode updates. And remember to learn from the journey. We want to thank Kryogenic Designs for our updated art thumbnail, and Dr. Dave Schramm and Rex Polanis from the Stronger Marriage podcast for their mentoring in getting this podcast started.